So for everyone who is on YouTube only, because we are currently on Discord having a little group session to talk about CoinAnk. We are essentially going to go through all of the things that I know about CoinAnk, because I don't know 100% of the tools mentioned there. Some of them I did some tests on. I wouldn't say that it's something that you can 100% rely market trades and like executions on very low time frames, but a lot of the times you can have some nice confluences, both for when you are already in trades and for when you want to have a point of interest to, for example, set an alert and see how it goes once it gets there. Oh, and by the way, let me just put Discord here on the right side, so if you guys say something on chat, I'll see. Okay, so CoinAnk is basically, well, first of all, it's only for crypto. So anyone who is watching that trades futures or CFDs or something else like Forex, you won't have any information like that here. And I guess I'll start. I'll go from left to right in terms of the menu, because all of these are basically just a summary, like an overview of everything related to all available cryptos. You can check from a big list of both exchanges and different types of data, like market caps and circulating supply. As you can see, a lot of different things. So I won't go through this because I don't think it's just a nice screener for you to have, right? But there are a few tools here that I think are pretty interesting. So first of all, starting with funding rate, and I'm gonna make some comparisons with what you can see on the actual charts. Because for example, when you go here to charts, funding rates, this is basically just your overall screener of what's happening right now in terms of funding rates, right? But for example, if you go here to charts, almost all of the information that you can see on this menu, you can see here, but on a chart, a very specific chart. So if I go, for example, to funding rate history, one very nice advantage here is that you can change to different time frames. So if I go, for example, to 5 or 1 minute even, and now I would advise you to hide everything except Binance. This orange line is basically Bitcoin's price, and then obviously what you are seeing in a big red number, big red bars are funding rates, right? Both in terms, you can even use this in terms of almost like using a divergence indicator, like you would use with RSI and things like that. Because if you get a nice difference between what's happening with funding rates and what's happening with price, such as this area, for example, where funding rates were really going up, but price had a really nice move down. This is essentially a div, and would maybe tell you that that a big difference in both levels of data, price and the funding rates, a big difference is happening. So maybe a reversal will happen soon. If you pair this with what you see on the charts, let me just fire up TradingView here. And today we were just talking about an SFP before starting live. So for example, if you just see this as a possible SFP, and as we are moving further and further down, and you have this big aggressive move, and then so this low over here is this low. So as you have this big aggressive move, and you were already anticipating that move, and you start seeing funding rates going so further up, such a big difference from what it has been doing, that's just a good sign. It's good as any other, to be fair, but it is a good sign. So going back, funding rates is something that I used to use. You have, for example, such as well as you have, for example, on stuff like CoinGlass, you also have a bunch of information for open interest. Um, then another nice thing, I don't know if it's here or it's on the charts. Yeah, it's here. So this is basically what you can consider as a free version of HighBlock. If you guys don't know HighBlock is quite an expensive. Let me see the pricing. It's quite an expensive tool, and granted, it shows up more stuff than what I'm about to show you, but it's $69 a month, and one of the most used things on HighBlock is exactly this: the ability to see where do you have the biggest liquidation levels. Um, so, for example, just earlier in the day, it's not showing now, but I can tell you that earlier in the day, this level, it actually said 57 100. This was yellow, 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 like strong yellow, this yellow, such as we have right now on 57050. This color was exactly right there. So it's, again, it's a nice, like I said in the beginning, it's not one of those tools that you can use for a quick execution, but in terms of setting up targets and maybe points of interest to uh, see where would possibly be a good place to enter, this is, yeah, this is pretty good. The advantage here is that you can also see it in a bit of a more macro perspective. So if I change this to weekly, you can see that we have just touched one of the bigger areas that we had in terms of liquidation, and now comparatively the biggest one we have is 61,300, which is interesting because it's a high that didn't, for example, touch this resistance area here, the last one we had. So it's a good, it's maybe a good idea. For example, if you are in a long, um, this is a potentially good target, right? Then you have other things like RSI heat map. There are a bunch of things that use this. It's basically RSI, but with the screener for all the coins that a CoinAnk can read. This is a visual screener with longs and shorts, basically, and showing you where there are the differences. In my opinion, I kind of hate this chart, to be fair, um, because if you need to see a very specific coin, this feels like, you know, that game of finding Wally. It's it's kind of, it's not so useful. A simple filter would be amazing. Um, so in terms of tools, in terms of the derivatives, this is kind of it, because when you then go into other things, I don't know how useful an overview of exchanges like this would be in order to decide trades. So in order to decide trades slash think about possible targets, this, in my opinion, is very nice. But you do have to do this. And by the way, I didn't explain why, but I will in a second. Like, for example, I have every one of them deactivated. As you can see, Binance is the one that will always give you a much better information in terms of how readable it is, right? If I compare this, for example, to Huobi, I can't really do anything with this. You know what I mean? It's just not useful. Gate, same thing. Bitget is a little bit better, but still kind of atrocious. Bybit is just, man, this, when it goes crazy, it really goes crazy. and it's kind of weird because Bybit is one of the most used ones. Useless, kind of useless. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The SFP, it shifted immediately, but um, sometimes it's kind of crazy as well. And DYDX is just absolutely non-existent even. So I don't even know why they have it there. Then another interesting thing, ranking is just the ranking of coins in terms of market cap, long short share ratio, nothing very special. Another interesting thing is fund flow history. This is basically a updated up to 5 minute of how much inflow slash outflow is in a coin. So this is interesting for two things. Once again, if you do your analysis and you're looking at um, a possible SFP of whatever level, right? And when it is happening, if you come up here, for example, let's see what happened on this low. So this low was 15, happened at 15, talking about my time, right? 15:15 actually. Well, 15:14. So let's see what happened at 15:14 or 15:10. Okay, 15:10. All of this was extreme red. Next candle after that, it started shifting. Why is this nice? Only from a perspective of kind of like an RSI overbought, oversold. Like if it's too much, anything, it's kind of universal in trading. Anything that is too much is bound to give you some kind of reversal or signal or reaction anytime soon. Even if it's not good enough for a swing trade, it will typically tell you that something is about to happen, right? Because it's basically you're basically looking at extremes, and a situation will always happen at an extreme level. Um, and so, for example, this was a very good sign. And right now, let's look at how we're doing. So, for example, at 7:30 my time, this was a little bit too green, maybe. So 7:30 is here. Oh, I thought I clicked the vertical line, but I didn't. So 7:30 was over there, and it's interesting because it's when we were having the most volatile move, right? So this is good for those type of comparisons. Again, not good enough for, in my opinion, not good enough for a fast execution. But it's good to show when you might have or start having a potential reversal, or if everything is just like too blunt in terms of colors, then it's not as extreme as you think, right? And you have a bunch of things here if you guys want to explore. I wouldn't say they're exactly useful to decide trades. Um, these are basically a list of all ETFs, how much inflow and outflow are going on each of them. This is a screener for all the guys, all the ETF funds that are holding Bitcoin, and how much, how little, all of that stuff. There is one just for Grayscale, specifically for Grayscale. It's basically the same thing, but it's solely for Grayscale. Is Inscription. I'm gonna be honest. I've looked at this in the past. I even researched it. I didn't really understand what it means. I know that it's an overview of all the tokens on BRC, um, but some of this info, except the obvious one, which is like changes in 4 hours in price and stuff like that, it's not very useful. Or based on my research, I couldn't really find a good use case for it in terms of trading. And then we come to the interesting part, in my opinion. Charts, this is where the magic is at, okay? In here, you can see a bunch of stuff, mostly in higher time frames. There are some exceptions like open interest that go as low as 5 minutes, but a big number of the options that you have here um, are going to be like 1 hour or 4 hour and above, because again, it's for you to have a feel for the market in terms of sentiment, overall sentiment. So for example, for people like me as a day trader or a scalper, it's not exactly useful. That's why I don't focus on it too much. um, but there are some, again, some interesting things like I showed you, specifically the liquidation heat maps and the liquidation maps. These are good for you to have specific, very specific um, numbers to look at, and maybe decide trades based on this information. And again, just as a reminder, all of these are essentially things that you have on derivatives here. Um, and the, the only difference is that they are presented always in terms of charts or screeners like this. Okay. Then we come to the main thing that I actually like to use, and this is what I mean by a potential TradingView alternative, because not only can you save charts, um, you also have uh, a watch list that doesn't have any kind of limitation in terms of numbers and stuff. The only thing is that you don't have, for example, replay mode, but you do have a bunch of other options that TradingView does not have at all. So I have some already set up here. I'm gonna go through them one by one. We are basically, right now, we are on the 15-minute chart, and I'm not gonna zoom too much more than this for now, just because otherwise it'll be a little bit too confusing, but we'll get there, okay? So, order book profile. This basically puts up the a list, graphically represented, a list of all the orders that exist on the current order book for Binance, because we're looking at BTC USDT perpetual on Binance, okay? But you do have other exchanges here, not all of them, but I would say these are probably the biggest ones, right? Except MXC. You will notice that MXC is basically non-present on, well, almost um, uh, all of the charting experiences out there, besides TradingView. Um, there's a big reason for that. It's mainly about their API. But it kind of sucks because, well, it doesn't suck that much. I was going to suck because it's one of the main non-KYC exchanges now, but they're not non-KYC anymore. So anyway, this is nice for you guys to understand, like, okay, I am interested in maybe taking a short from a range. This is not one of the best in terms of how good it would probably be, um, but based on that comparison, you could see that this level over here, based on the order book, this level is the one that has, on this consolidation, is the level that has the biggest amount of orders sitting as limits waiting to be filled. If you are thinking about something a bit more specific, like this area over here, then you know that the biggest area in terms of orders sitting waiting is 59,697, and below that you have 59,499. So it's interesting just to know what to expect. Like, watching this, you can expect and understand that, okay, if it comes to this high, there's probably going to be a reaction at this level because a lot of orders are waiting there. At the same time, it's nice to understand, like, if you just shifted market structure, this is also a target, right? Because resting orders are essentially liquidity. So if price always targets liquidity, which it does, um, then we know that there's a high chance it comes here and here and here and here. Like, we never know for sure which one is going to happen first, right? That's the main problem with trading, or difficulty, let's say. Um, but at least you know that there is liquidity waiting there, resting there. So I'm gonna hide this now just to not have everything on the chart. And now let's go to another thing, which is TPO. This is time price opportunity. So it's the profile uh, of each of the days in terms of time. It shows you basically the bigger the or the more extended each of these bars here is, it means that price spent more time specifically at this level and at this level in comparison to all the other times of the day. So that accompanied with something like a volume profile will a lot of times tell you like, okay, price spent the most amount of time here and the most amount of time here. Do I have something in there that can tell me that somewhere in this area is a good entry? And just looking in terms of candles, that would tell you that you have this order block, 15-minute at least, that might be a place where price returns to because it has this fair value gap over here, and from there it might accumulate again to start going up. It will also tell you basically what are the selling tails, selling and buying tails. When you see something like this with such a short, uh, in this case buying tail, you know that this is just basically a low resistance level. In comparison, this low is much stronger because a wick this big will essentially tell you that there were a lot more reaction and a lot more buys. Well, because it's a wick anyway, right? But what it would tell you in comparison is that this day, this high is a poor TPO high. Um, for example, such as this, both of these are equally powerful. So what this means is that it was a range most of the times, and it was in this case, right? So next, liquidation levels. Again, something that you would use high block typically to detect. You can also check here. You have the option to change or hide the ones that you don't want just by, you have to do it manually, deleting colors, or what I mean by deleting colors is hiding them through the opacity. I personally do not show low leverage. I only like to watch at mid and high leverage, except if I'm trading Asia. If you guys are trading Asia, Asia will a lot of times have good reactions even if it's a low leverage level, because again, the volume is not as big, um, so they don't have as much volatility, and a lot of times a low leverage level will already be good enough for a reaction and or a take profit, like a good target for you guys to have as a in a trade. um, but essentially looking at high and mid leverage price levels, sorry, will give you a lot of times what is considered a good target, basically. So, for example, for us to liquidate all of the people that have been shorting and probably ran out of steam on this level, for those guys to be liquidated, we would have to get up to 60K, $60,076. Um, Again, looking at Binance levels, there will always be a bunch of levels to look out for, always, okay? But it's nice if you how is this useful? Because if you see something like this happening, like price having a strong reaction, and you have any other confluences to get in on a short, such as this breaker block over here, and you decide to take a chance, you know that all of these levels that we're creating during this move, all of these are targets. And a lot of times, if you create short-term liquidation levels like these, and you start moving down, uh, the liquidation levels created by the guys who longed against those liquidation levels will also be a target, right? So it goes two ways. As you can see, for example, for Bitcoin, it was a little bit predictable that we could have a strong move down just based off of this strong group. Okay, in this move here, not a lot of liquidation levels. On this move here, a lot of liquidation levels. So even if you weren't targeting down here, targeting, for example, this low, which is where that stack of liquidation levels end, um, even targeting this low is a good probability trade. Okay, and that's what it's used for, or better used for. Up here, for example, we have a big group, so this is also a good target. If you are in a trade right now, even taking profit on this stack is already good enough, because after that you have a big gap. So this area is maybe a little bit of an uncertain area, but this stack of liquidation levels is good. And again, this is saving you basically like $69 a month. Oh, by the way, $69 a month if you pay yearly, right? So monthly it would be 99. So that's a lot of money that you save just from this. Um, this is just anchored view ups. I have this to the daily, but you can change it to any time frame that you want, above the daily, of course. This is essentially the liquidation levels, um, but as sorry, the limit orders, but as a heat map. So this is kind of a replacement for. I was showing this earlier. Well, I closed it already. Okay, let me open a new one. For example, on YouTube, there are certain streams that show live bookmap streams. Let me see if I can find one for BTC. These guys, for example, they have a live bookmap stream for Bitcoin, um, and you see this heat map over here. This is basically bookmap. Bookmap is also paid. Well, sorry, I think for crypto it's free, um, but you know, most of the good indicators are paid. Yeah. So what this tells you is basically where the limit orders are. So if you pair this with the first thing that I showed you, you will find the same resemblance, where if I zoom in here, let me see if I can improve this a little bit. Not much, I guess. This really slows you down. The computer, it really slows you down. But for example, what you will notice is that there is a cluster of orders here, and that's why you have the brighter area there. And as you can see, order book profile also shows you that. You have a cluster here that showed up recently, and as you can see, that's where a big order book section is as well. Another one here, and you can also see that on the order book. So this is basically telling you in a it's basically a different way of showing the same thing, which is where our orders sitting at, right? I do honestly, I do prefer the order book profile for two reasons. One, it doesn't slow your computer down. Two, these, if you rely on these too much, you won't have as a refresh rate as fast as the order book profile, because these will constantly be changing, and you can see it here on the closest one to price. They are constantly changing, like maybe half a second each time. Um, so this is a little bit better than the heat map. The heat map is better if you want to see historically what happened, right? So for example, we were talking about this level earlier. When we were down here ranging, taking the highs, taking the lows, there was a big section of sorry, I got a message. Oh, never mind. It's not from the guys at Discord. Um, there was a big section here that had a bunch of orders waiting. But once price went down, most of them were removed, and this is why it's useful, right? However, as we were getting closer and closer and closer, um, they started showing up again. So it's nice to read this just from the perspective that, okay, if this happened, sorry, and they are now getting back in, maybe these guys will try to push price down. It's not a good idea, again, to just limit, because you'll basically be liquidity if you do that. But once you get a reaction like that, then any other type of confluence that you can find to get in on a trade just increases your probability, right? And so let me remove this. Now, a similar thing to show you orders is this. This is large order. Um, so what it does is essentially show you both derivative and spot um, levels where big limit orders are. So if I move my cursor here, you will see that it says over there large limit order. It says the price at where the order is and how much it represents in terms of the coin and money. Okay. So it says here, for example, 10.99 million were fully filled as a short limit order. Um, so once that happens again, if you see a reaction from this, you can think about entering a short, because these guys will be with you, right? These guys will be hoping that you win as well. Another thing that you can use this for is, again, if we are here, once we are here, notice that this order here exists since this moment. Okay, so if you are here and you see that there's a big one waiting for you, then accompany together with, for example, something as liquidation levels. If you pair the two of them and you see, okay, there's a big stack here and there's a big limit order here. So these are both liquidation levels and liquidity waiting for price to get there. So yeah, that makes it a good target, right? So for example, right now, for whoever is long, we have a bunch of limit orders waiting on the order book profile, as you can see there with the lines that I drew. Let me just remove this because it becomes a little bit more confusing. Let me zoom in here. So currently we don't have super red, or pink in this case, super pink orders. They're not super big, but for example at this level, which is the highest bar that we have here, at this level we have also 11.95 million. It says booking there, so they're waiting essentially for price to get there. Together with where the biggest groups of liquidation levels are, we know that this area is a good target. So this group and this group, because it also has a limit order there, makes it basically a good target. If it's going to get there before moving back down, we don't know that. That's the hard part, right? And that's where risk management comes in. But if you are in a good trade and if you're protected, or if you're already done your risk management, for example, right now I'm in the long from this line over here. Not exactly. This says 703. I'm from 701, but my stop, for example, is already below these lows. Like, if I'm already protected and if it goes there, nice, cool. If not, when it comes here and I'm stopped out, I'll maybe think about re-entering based on whatever happens once it gets there, right? And so where was I? So let me remove liquidation levels, large orders. This is historical liquidation profile. It will show you essentially where liquidations happened recently. It shows time frame 1 day, but you can move it a little bit closer, and it will basically show you where people were liquidated in the past. So there were actually, let me see if I can increase this just to show you guys. better, because this line is very big, but the other ones are not. Okay, maybe more just so you guys can see better. Okay, so for example, at this level, a lot of people were liquidated. Once it came back down, a lot of people were liquidated as well. A lot of shorts were liquidated right now too, with this move up. Um, and for example, I'm expecting probably a little bit of a range between this area, because a bunch of people got liquidated there, right? So let me move this back down to 50 or something. Ooh, even that is a lot. 20, okay. At 20, I can say that in comparison to all of these little bars, this was really big. So whoever was maybe short, maybe longing here, they longed and they immediately got liquidated. And I'm saying long because it's green, right? That's what it means. So stupid people just longed here, high leverage, they got screwed. So it's probably going to range a little bit now, I'm guessing. And finally, we get to footprint. So footprint is basically what you would see on something like Exo, right? ExoCharts is a footprint type of software that can show you the bids and asks that are occurring real time. I'm showing you Exo here because it's nice to see how the comparison in terms of refresh rate is. Exo is extremely fast, but even if I put this on the 1 minute, and if I come here to these candles, let me actually put them side by side. You will see that the refresh rate of both of them, let's hope they move a little bit more right now so that you guys can see. The refresh rate of both of them, like CoinAnk is maybe like 0.3, 0.5 moves per second, but Exo is basically on time. It's so much faster, so it's better. Basically, it's just better. However, you know, for a bunch of things, a bunch of situations, CoinAnk is good enough, especially if you don't have money for buying Exo. And it's good also because, same as Exo, it shows you stacked imbalances as well. So for example, what I mean by stacked imbalances is when there's too much of a difference. I have my candles on delta, but let me put this on bids and asks. This is not very visible, I know, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can show you better ones. Let me see if I can put this. Where's the colors? Colors. I don't have an option to show. Okay, let me put this in white light theme. Lol. Wait, where's the background? Okay, this is gonna be a little bit weird, I know, I'm sorry. But over there you can see, it will show you imbalances like these lines. This is too much, I'm sorry. Okay, this is good enough. It will show you stacked imbalances where when the difference between buys and sells are just it's on a totally different ratio, much different level. So for example, here we had 16 Bitcoin. I think this is Bitcoin because it says ask BitCluster. Yeah, 16 Bitcoin being bought in comparison to 0. So it's kind of bound to show you stacked imbalances there because the difference is just too big. So this is nice for situations like having those stacked imbalances as confirmation for a move, and also for situations like this. We were talking about this earlier. I have to really zoom in here. So this line is basically a low that we had from a previous day. And if we zoom in here, the interesting factor about this is two situations. As it is going down, I'm trying to make this bigger so you guys can read, because I know it's really hard to read. As it's going down here, we have 226 sells against 0.3. So there was no one left to take those sell orders. Right after that, this was probably extremely fast when it was happening. We got 297 buys. So these buyers were um, winning over these sells here, and it was an SFP, and it was a super aggressive move. Um, so the moment that you see imbalances like this, well, that is already a good confirmation if you know what you're doing, you know, and if you have the finger on the trigger. But once you see buys coming in like this, and even on the second candle, it's not, when it's this starts going down, not being able to move past this high volume section, then this is just a good buy, you know. It's obviously a little bit like catching a falling knife, of course, but you have at least a technical confirmation based on what is actually happening in terms of buys and sells. So it's not like you're going in blind, you know. And I think that is it. I'm just going to show you guys the difference in what kind of candles you can have. So this is basically cluster. It shows you, cluster basically shows you sells on the left side, buys on the right side. And it's nice in terms of you being able to see what is the highest point of volume on each of the candles, because this rectangle here, it's not the candle itself, okay? Because the candle is this thicker section is the body, and this is the wick. The rectangle is basically the point of control of the candle, where the most amount of volume happened, okay? So that alone is good. For example, if you're targeting an order block and trying to enter from an order block, and you see that price is not able to pass above or below that point of control of that candle, then you know that there's a possibility for a reaction. Then you have ask bid profile. It's basically the same thing, it just shows you with different kind of settings, different kind of visual representation. Cluster, again, same thing, you just don't have the candle. So I would advise you, if you guys want to use this, actually don't even, oh wait, now it's bugging me. Let me see if I can go back to, okay, is if you are starting out and if you want to use these kind of stuff, use this, which is ask bid cluster 3. It will give you the best type of information, in my opinion, because, for example, I like to use delta, which is essentially this. So it will show you where is the highest points, but it shows you basically how much of a difference is there in terms of who is buying, who is selling. And most of the times I like this, because if you see like a white candle like this, and all of the buys are at the exact top, and the next candle is already failing that, but still the highest number of buys is at the top, then it tells you like, hey, this is not a good sign. Buyers are buying at the exact top, and now we're failing, so maybe those guys are losing steam. It's better when you see a candle like this, where right at the bottom of the candle you have the majority of the buys, and the candle is bullish. So that indicates that there's a possibility for a continuation. Even this one, the buys are at the bottom, and the next one candle, for example, is not able to continue, right? However, they aren't able to go below this level, so believing in a continuation is still technically possible. It's not just a matter of hope. It's a matter of checking if these numbers still hold up. So it does hold up, but then this happens, and this is not a good sign. Okay. Same thing here, because shorts just shorted the exact bottom. So they are basically fighting here. If now price cannot go below this, then I expect it to buyers start winning, because if this happened right at the bottom, either people step in, new ones step in right now, or these guys are going to get trapped. Okay, and you can basically keep doing this, and I promise you it'll be extremely exhausting if you do this minute by minute. But if you, for example, are in a trade and you're trying to decide if you get out or get in, um, this can be good information for you to basically to make a decision if you are indecisive at the moment. So I guess that is it. In indicators here, you have a bunch of other things that you can look into. Most of the things that you have here on the derivatives and on the charts, you will have here, but they will basically being plotted on the chart itself. Um, Much like other footprint software, you also have bar statistics, by the way, which is something I forgot to mention because I honestly don't use it. But this will tell you, like, this is volume, this is probably, where's the labels? I was going to say, okay, here it is. This is buying volume, third is sell volume, so it basically tells you the numbers when the candles are being formed. These are updated in real time. Again, not as good as an exo charts, for example, not as fast, because even for that, if I show you exo charts here, and let me pull up the bar statistics, you will see that these numbers update much faster. But again, this is free, guys, so can't really compare. And it's also I think it's more of a browser thing, right? A browser can't, unless it's an extremely CPU intensive app. A browser typically doesn't have the same processing power as something like a desktop app, which can fully utilize your graphics card and CPU, right? Then you have, there's a bunch of indicators here. And by the way, the liquidation map can also be shown here. But I guess that's it, guys. So for everyone who is in the Discord, if you guys have questions, shoot them up. I'll try my best to answer them. Tell me what you guys think, what you guys need. I'm listening. Otherwise, I'm gonna take a break for dinner. But tell me what you guys think. Oh, my dog. Perfect timing. How are you? I have Discord muted. Or are you guys there?
All good, mate. Very nice stream.
Thank you, brother. You have any questions?
At the moment, no.
What's up?
I will have to review the video, put something to practice, and afterwards, usually for me, it works like that.
Post it on. I'm gonna get ready for dinner, but post it on Discord then, and I'll try to answer to the best of my ability as usual.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Guys, I'm gonna take a break then. I'll be here later to do the weekly analysis. But I will update you guys, because I said 9, but it's already 8:30 and I have to prepare dinner, so making dinner, then eating, etc. I'm probably not gonna be here at 9 exactly. But I'll post on Chillzone or Alpha Spark News when I'm ready, okay? Anyway, it's gonna be recorded, so if you guys want to check it out later, it's totally fine. And that's it, guys. I'm out. I'll see you around. Have a nice rest of the day. And yeah, I'll see you later. Okay, bye bye.